My first job after the war was to go straight to Hertfordshire County Council, where they were building schools in the 1940s. Mary and I went there, and Mary worked in the education department for a long time, and she's very knowledgeable about education. So we worked there and did early Hertfordshire schools, and from then on we moved to the ministry, because the ministry wanted to build schools as well. And when we came to the ministry, we built several early schools in the ministry in various parts of the country, 3 of which your headmaster's been to. This is absolutely extraordinary. May I mention this? Absolutely extraordinary. He was a primary school, in a high primary school we did in Coventry. He was a secondary pupil in a secondary school we did in Coventry, and he did his teacher training in a primary base we did in Goldsmiths. He's absolutely made indoctrinated from the... Isn't that extraordinary? And that's why he's so happy here. The ILA said, would you have an architect in your office, and he'd work with you, that's me and my wife, you see. And they brought an architect along, and it simply would not work. We could not see eye to eye to him. And we said, we went to our boss and said, look, this is no good. We're going to be a compromise from the day one. So what the office did, you see, we were in charge then, you see, we're not politicians are in charge now. They gave the ILA another school design quite independently of this one, you see, up in King's Cross. And the architect who came to us went away and did that school. That's the last we saw of it. And Mary and I did this school independently. Isn't that a good idea? So this was entirely our idea, and it was a very difficult site, as you can see, a very difficult, complicated site. We were rather critical of our own design and the fact that 3 rooms are in a row, what about what you call B, E and F? So we wanted to make a courtyard plan, and we did a courtyard plan, which the Newsom at the LCC didn't like so much, so we went on with this one, you see, but this is not too bad. So this was built according to our design, and it opened in 1966, entirely our own design, you see. So it's make it quite different from early classrooms, and the ILA were very good indeed. They appointed Betty Agate a year ahead of when she was going to be head. You see, she had a year's sabbatical looking at primaries all over the country. It was marvellous. And she got the school off to a marvellous start. And when I was going around the school before it was opened, and the school was nearly finished, the vicar came along, and the vicar said, you'll have all these windows broken. And Betty said, what do you mean broken? Why? Well, the secondary school will break them all. The first thing that Betty did was to go to the secondary school, talk to the secondary modern school, get them interested in the school, and invite them over here to see it. And they allocated a space, I don't know which space it was, in which they would always have their exhibits in the school. Wasn't that a marvellous idea? And also, the secondary school built a boat for the school, which the children loved. So that was a very happy relationship. The head teacher had more faith in the children than the vicar did, if you see what I mean. I thought I'd take a photograph from one of these tower blocks down, well, Gary's got the photograph. I took from the top here, looking down on the school. I got into the lift. A small girl, aged about 6 or 7, got into the lift. And the lift stopped on the 7th floor. And I said, is this your home here? She said, no, I can't reach higher than the 7th button. And that's her home up the top there. And that's the introduction. I mean, that's the end of the story. But this school is the home, and those flats are the institution. This is to make this as complicated as you possibly can, inside and outside. It's not just a row of 6 classrooms. It's a row of 8 or 9 quite different rooms, each quite separate from the other, which makes it more fun for the children. I was asking the teacher in room B, do your children use the keyboard or do everybody use the keyboard? Only my children use the keyboard, so you come through and use the keyboard, go on, you see. It's rather nice there, isn't it? My wife had been a lot in Sweden. She was very influenced by the Swedish schools, the very early Swedish schools. You know, they're human, absolutely human. Now, we were determined to make this a single-story building, as complicated as possible. Each room have its own exterior space. And out into the garden, there's one very nice photograph that Gary's got with 2 boys playing with 2 rabbits on the green grass with a great tower block behind. You know, that's the home. My wife and I are both anti-architect. You see, we don't start with an architectural point of view. It's the education and the child. That's the matter. That's the starting point. And then what sort of building emerges results from there. Most architects start, they have a concept, you see, and you've got to fit into it. You see, it's entirely opposite. Architects don't like it. You've got to train the architect to make education the starting point. The point about this refurbishment you've got here, the aim is to recreate in better condition what you've already got, not to tear anything down. I'm sure that's the right answer. You'll see, I think it's important that there are certain things that I think are important that the architect should learn about, and perhaps I can be helpful here on the furniture and the lighting, because the furniture is very varied throughout, and we want to keep that variation. We don't want to sweep everything and make it all standardized, to try and make it individual furnishing as far as possible. And I know somebody who could perhaps do that quite well. And also we can use the current European standard for furniture. You won't notice any difference in that, but it will at least bring it up to date. It will be the latest thing ergonomically to have the best size for the best children, all that kind of stuff, you see. I think it would be useful to do that. And also on the lighting, you'll see from the photographs I gave to Gary, we got 36 light fittings from Bangkok for the school originally. I designed them originally, and I knew somebody in Bangkok who could make them, and we had them all shipped over. But they've all gone now. There's little baskets you show over the individual working places, but we can't do that now. But I mean, we don't want to have fluorescent light everywhere. It wants to be done homely and more domestically possible. I would hope that the architects would be sufficiently modest to recreate to a higher standard what's already here, if you see what I mean, like doors and windows and lavatories and things want modernizing and so on. If you can have a central area where you all can come together, then you can disperse into different kinds of practical areas, and reading areas and practical areas and science areas and so on, so that you don't make it all the same, make them all different. I think schools are going to the pot at the moment, honestly. The schools that I see are all architects' dream-ups. You know, they're not. I tell you what I do feel very strongly about is we've lost the HMI. The HMI were a group of independent people who thought specifically about the future and the growing points in education, knew where they all were. And you can go and visit them schools with the HMI. They're the people who knew what was the way forward. They were no longer. They weren't policemen. The HMI have been turned into policemen for the government, which is a great mistake. They're no longer independent. That's what I feel most strongly about. And all our friends were in HMI, local advisors and teachers. They're all education people. They're the people we learn from. You can't learn from architects. Education is the starting point. I keep on saying that. All this is educational.